Good morning, Douglas County citizens and staff, and welcome to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners Work Session for Monday, May 15th, 2023. We will now call the meeting to order. To ensure that we have a quorum for this work session, I will call on my commissioners. We have District 2 Commissioner Kelly Robinson.
Present, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. District 4 Commissioner Mark Alcaraz.
Present.
And I'm your Vice Chair and District 3 Commissioner Tarenia Carthen. At this time, we will accept our agenda adoption. Are there any amendments or corrections to the agenda? I do have one. We want to move items 14 through 17 up for discussion under business items. So we will move those up so that Manager Ron Roberts, if you will be ready to present earlier in the agenda than noted. Any other corrections? Being none, we will accept the agenda as amended. Clerk Watson, do we have anyone who signed up for public comment?
Yes, ma'am, we did. We have 2 citizens, but before I call on them, I'll just remind everyone, each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address the board. A 15-second warning will sound, and at that time, you'll have 15 seconds to complete your statement. When you come up to the podium, if you could restate your name, address, and your subject matter, and at that time, your time will begin. So first up is Mr. Bobby Fryer.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, all members present of the board, everyone here. Bring you greetings this morning as the poll marker president of the Carrollton-Douglasville Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. My name is Bobby Fryer, again, P.O. Box 6832, Douglasville, Georgia 30154. I rise today to talk about the great work that has been done in this county from the Carrollton-Douglasville Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, herein to refer to as CDAC, so that we don't have to say it every time. But since the last time we came here, we thank you for the public proclamation for the work that we have been doing. I just wanted to share a few other things that has happened since then. First thing, we did a lunch initiative where we covered all the past due balances of 20 elementary schools, 1 middle school, which was Stewart Middle School, and Douglas County High School, covering approximately $16,000 in past due lunch debt. We also have been recognized by our fraternity and our province as the chapter of the year again for 2022 and 2023. We won the award again last year. This is the 7th time this chapter has been recognized by our province for the great work that we have been doing. We just left giving out an academic scholarship. We've covered now 4 of the 5 high schools here. We did in the fall Chapel Hill, Douglas County High School, New Manchester. Today we did Lithia Springs. We'll be doing Alexander High School tomorrow. Today at Lithia Springs, we did it in honor of the young man who was gunned down, Samuel Michael Moon, at the Sweet 16 party in March. So we wanted to do that in his honor today by recognizing the student for their academic achievement. Samuel was an outstanding student, so we thought it would be appropriate to recognize him in this recognition today for academic excellence. And we are also involved with the Rising Change Mentorship Initiative that is being launched by the DA, Dahlia Racine, here in Douglas County. So I just wanted to publicly state the great work that the Carrollton-Douglasville Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated has been doing. I'm here joined today by Brother Don Rich Young, and we're just here today to say thank you, and also to just, again, let you all know the work that we're doing, that we'll continue to do. We've touched every district in this county, and we'll continue to do the work on our behalf of our fraternity. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share and speak. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Young, did you want to say anything, or? Okay. Okay. No more citizens.
Thank you, Clerk Watson. Now we will go into our presentations. Next we have on the agenda the 2016 SPOS update by David Good. Mr. Good, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay, so again, this is, I'm David Good. I'm bringing you the March revenues, the work that was done through April 2023, the projects that were completed, and the activities that were in fire and EMS, which represents 32% of the SPLOST, transportation project activities, which represent 51%, and then finally Parks and Rec project activities that represent the final 17%. And as you know, our finances have continued to remain strong. The March collection is the last collection of the 2016 SPLOST. The March revenues was $3,454,866. That's compared to the $2.1 million that we were anticipating receiving. And so, and this is, according to both myself and Terry Gable, this is our second highest that we've ever had behind this past December. Again, with this program, we end up going north of $175 million. That's $175,738,882. And locally, that's about $122 million that we received here just in Douglas County. The difference is 19% over the original projections, and the amount of money that we've spent thus far on the current SPLOST is $85,604,099. Right here, this actually shows you our full spread for the full year from April of last year until the end of the SPLOST. For the first time, we did get $37 million, and that's about $3.1 million each month. It's basically, that's how much it was. And then locally, that's about 2.6. This is the next slide. We have one completed project. That's the tanker truck. As you guys know, at one time, we really didn't have a way of fighting fires ourselves. That might include in rural areas, or we're going to freeways. We have to go pump water out of the lake or go and rely on our partners. So now with this tanker truck at a cost of $482,000, excuse me, $410, we were able to receive a 3,000-gallon tanker, and received that last month, back in March. And this is an example of the tanker truck. It's a beautiful truck, and it's a very great asset for the county. These are also the project activities. The first one is Fire Station number 9. We're finalizing the plans and the permits to advertise for construction. Schedule should go out next month. The completion date is for summer of next year. The burn tower, the training facility, the BOC approved this structure, and it's going to be installed. It's delivered on 5/3/23, and at a cost of almost $500,000, a little bit less. We also have State Route 5 at Douglas Boulevard. Of course, the city has been is willing to pay $600,000. The budget is 1.8. The project is in the right-of-way phase. We have 3 parcels that's left to be acquired. Expected that date is the is fall of this year. New Manchester High School sidewalks. We know we've been waiting on this one for a while. The plans are 85% complete. We're waiting on GDOT to approve the pedestrian signal, but we were able to get all the acquisitions for the right-of-way. So it's expected to this late fall. And then the playgrounds over at Billard Park, Deer Lick, Woodrow Wilson Park in Deer Lick. This at a cost of $371,283. Right now, work is going on at each park and expected to be delivered in July, August. All depends on how long it takes them to do the framing of everything. And next up, I'll take any questions or comments on this part of it, and then I have another slide that will kind of like show where we are when it comes to the end of 2016 SPLOST revenues.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, up to this point, do you have any questions for Mr. Good in terms of the SPLOST updates?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I got 2 questions.
Okay.
First one, I had a chance to speak last week, and one of the revelations into the public audience was the revelation of our needing infrastructure and sidewalks. I remember when I walked home for 3 hours from this courthouse all the way to Tributary when I first went blind back in 16. And now obviously with the impetus of the buses to make sure people can move, sidewalks and walking down that street, walking down Fairham Road, y'all, you begin to notice things. When you get outside your bubble, like, oh my God, ain't no sidewalks. Now everybody got options when I'm walking down the street and everybody's blowing their horn saying, Commissioner Robinson, you need to, no, I got this. Everybody got those type of options. You see the grandmother walking with her bags and stuff, 5 bags strong, right? She gives me the nod. I'm like, yes, ma'am, I get it. Ain't no sidewalks in this county. That's the 8th most dense. So my question to you is that, and again, man, walking down Riverside, going to that bus at River's Edge, that tractor trailer come by my head, and I'm on the phone running my can against that curb. This dude throttled that needle, an 18-wheel, and I happen to turn like, oh my God. We got to get outside our bubble. So I appreciate how important, like while we've been working on that, I had to set that up, because you got to get stuff done. One thing to have conversations. So talk to us about how long will this be manifested before I'm out of here next year, yes or no? Will those sidewalks be done, yes or no?
Yes, the sidewalks over at New Manchester will be done.
They will be done. Second question, will that fire station, which was also important, not just for residential residents, but also for commercial residents, will that be done before I'm out of here next year? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I want to know. Did I finish my work? Did I get stuff done that the citizens asked for? Can I get some street lights? Can I get some bike lanes? Right? Can I get some simple stuff? You know, can I get a fire station to protect my assets? Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, I yield.
Thank you. You have the floor, Mr. Goods. Continue.
Now, what we have here is really just kind of like a small little background of what has transpired over the SPLOST. The November 2016, that's when the voters approved the SPLOST to begin in April 2017. The 6-year SPLOST collection started then, and it ended, as you know, at the end of March. It was estimated to be $106 million. According to the last numbers I just gave, we're over $175 million. The cost started going up in 2019, then COVID came, and then the revenue started to exceed projections. And we did a reforecast as those numbers started going up, costs, labor costs, and so therefore we ended up reforecasting some projects based upon the Board of Commissioners. And then through the end of April 2023, the program is estimated at 83% complete. Local participation has increased. Minority participation in DB partnerships has increased. And we have completed 70 projects, and we have about 30 active projects right now. These are basically the completed projects that we have going on, from fire station upgrades. We have the countywide radio system that came in at under $16 million. We had Station 3 renovations, which was a very large thing, over there with the BLR fire station. We were able to get staff vehicles, equipment procurement. We ended up getting a mobile safety house for the young people. So whenever the fire department wanted to show how to do safety, they actually had a command vehicle they could take around. We were able to do a Station 2 and 4, which is the Winston station, as well as the Fairplace station out in District 4. And we did the roof replacements there. We did computer upgrades. We also were able to procure ladder trucks, ambulances, fire engines, which are also called pumper trucks, as well as QRVs and a tanker truck, as I had mentioned earlier. This is actually a diagram of one of our new engines. This was the delivery date of this one was back in February of 2019. The cost was $552,045. We also, as I mentioned before, we had Station 3 renovations. There was actually a small little build out of that building. We completed that one in April of 2019 for $538,480. We had the public safety radio system, which to date is our largest SPLOST financing, and it came in at $15.6 million. We received that on June 1st of 2020. Transportation completed projects. We were able to do the Whitestone culvert replacement, the bridge over Dog River on Post Road. We did pavement evaluations as well as resurfacing programs from 2017 until 2022. Traffic lights at SR 92 at Riverside and SR 92 at Mount Vernon. Both of those were considered safety projects, so we were able to put new traffic lights there. As Commissioner Robertson talked about with sidewalks, we did do a Lithia Springs Elementary, which is in District 1, as well as doing a Chestnut Law Middle School over there in District 2. That's where the traffic lights also went. We had the installation of basically street lights along Riverside. We also on the Riverside, we put a light at Rock House Riverside. We did safety projects on I-20, lighting up every exit from Liberty Road to Thornton Road, with the exception of Fairburn Road, which was done by the city of Douglasville. Because of something that happened with one of our citizens, was killed over there on Maxon Road, we were able to install a sidewalk, and where also GDOT did improvement at that intersection. Bright Star Road and John West T intersection, we were able to do a road improvement there, as well as traffic mitigation at south at Sweetwater Church at Doris Road, as well as doing driveway replacement at the transfer station. Riverside Parkway, this picture is showing Riverside Parkway going from SR 92 going east to SR 6, which is also Thornton Road. That was completed back at end of 2018, December 2018, for $184,293. Sweetwater Church Road, as I mentioned earlier at Doris, we did that one for $663,000, and that was completed the middle of February 2021, the 15th of February. And then also we did the Whitestone Culvert. This culvert was washed out in the storm of 2009. It divided the community. Once it was replaced, we started to see building houses to start going up. That was completed at the end of February 2021 for $1.27 million. And then finally, we had the Parks and Rec completed projects. We have the Lithia Springs Senior Center that was constructed for, I believe it was 18,100 square feet. That was over in District 1. We also had Bill Art Park concession, Fair Play Park concession, as well as the fencing and the dugouts for both parks, and then the retaining wall for Bill Art. We also did a chestnut log netting and fencing replacement. We did Post Road Park renovation. We did Deer Lick Park gym replacement and deck. We also did a Dennis Courts. Resurfaced those and did a new lighting, a Boundary Waters concession and lighting. We also did a Boundary Waters multi-purpose center, which is the largest project of these, which is also over there in District 2. And then finally, we have a picture of the Lithia Springs Senior Center. As I said, 18,100 square feet. It has a lot of different parts to it. It has indoor pool, has outdoor track, pickleball court, conference rooms, the works. We were able to get that to the county in November of 2020, and the project cost $4.28 million. We also were able to do the Bill Art concession, replacement of the existing building, and we also were able to do the fencing there, the dugout there, as well as doing the retaining wall, as I mentioned earlier. So it has concessions, restrooms, and the date we received that was the end of May 2021 at a final cost of $765,160. As well as the Fair Play Park concession, it was replacement of their existing building with the same makeup when it comes to the fencing, as well as we did some lighting at one of the ball fields, as well as the dugouts. And we did the press box concessions and restrooms, and that came in at a cost of $676,685. It was also delivered at the end of May 2021. And then finally, the Boundary Waters Activity Center, 30,000 square feet. This building is over there, of course, at Boundary Waters Park. And this one also has a basketball court and two basketball courts on both sides. It has a conference room and also has a weight room upstairs, as well as an indoor walking track. That project came in at a little bit under $7.5 million, and it was delivered October 20th, 2021. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Board of Commissioners, you have heard the SPLOST project completion list for 2016. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Just a couple more. Again, all right, thank you for that history lesson. There's two different things. What I heard was that we're now officially completed with the 2016 SPLOST. Is that true, yes or no?
With the revenue collections.
Revenue collections over. So we're not taxing the citizens for the 2016 SPLOST. The penny continued because, or the 1% continued because the new one was approved. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is important. So what'd you say, $106 million, and how much did the county walk away with? 122?
Yes.
All right, so 106 was the estimate. We came in 122. We know the bigger we had to share with our cities. I'm going somewhere with this. Because the city got what they got out of this as well, right? They're able to put forth some of the work they're doing with their amphitheater and some of the things downtown and reconstruction. And I really don't know, but I can sense what they're doing. I can feel it. Now, this is important. This administration, when we got this Boston 17, what Mr. Good just showed you is the work that was done. You know, taxation without representation. Well, your voices, this was your list. I remember me at the prior time County Administrator Teal sat in that office, this before Dr. Corbin, all these guys were here. Right? We sat in that office, we programmed the entire SPLOS in 4 hours. Don't take that long. The list was long. The 2009 SPLOS, what did it do? $150 million. Took everything. Commissioner Alcor, think about it. It took everything. The cities got impoverished. We had nothing to work with. Oh, you got that beautiful jail. And I'm not emphasizing that. It's important that you see how dollars are spent. What was the priority? No problem. That was their priority. Got it. I'm not challenging the need. Got it. That one project, single building, took an entire SPLOS. Now we got this new one, and I'm trying to show you the distribution. A more inclusive, a more progressive. It ain't about containment. It's about empowerment. Look at the two. Learn this stuff. I mean, so now it's spread out even more, right? So now we get to do it over again. And I'm waiting for, okay, I get it, but I'm waiting. Look, y'all, we're 2 months into this SPLOS. Current administration, all right, guys, let's go. Don't take that long to do a list. The program, 6 years. This is my third one. And we need to show the public the work that we're doing. That's a lot of good work. And we get caught up in the vacuum sometimes in meetings and stuff, and we forget that, guys, the citizens wants to see the fruit of our efforts. So anyway, you've answered my 2 questions regarding that. Great job of keeping up with this. I have to acknowledge, obviously it was the Moreland at that time, Moreland Russell team, but it became the Atlas Russell team. You guys done a great job of administrating. Every month we know where this thing stood. And I hope the rest of the administration can catch up. This is how you report every month. 15 minutes go. Where are we at any given moment? You guys at any given moment can tell me exactly where this big money was being spent. The SPLOS was bigger than actually, guys, our whole budget at one time. Pay attention to it. So I want to thank you guys for the work that you guys have done, but also to the citizens for allowing us, because now we've shown it. It's nothing to say. Look at the receipts. That's receipts. Look at the work. Look at the work. Look how it's distributed. The voices that came out of all the districts, whoever stood up and advocated for theirs, there it is. Right? So look at the work. I mean, we're talking about real work. This stuff has been pent up for years. From 2002 to now, that was a whole generation. And in between that, we built a jail. Nothing else got done. No maintenance, no nothing. We went through a great flood. We went through a great recession. Now we come through a COVID. Now they spotted us. We saw the spike like, yeah, that ain't sustainable though. Yeah, okay, it'll come back. But anyway, I just want to make that. Thank you for closing us out. So I guess we won't talk about 16, I guess, for the projects that come in the lagger. But at some point, we're going to talk about the new SPLOS. Is that true?
Right, for the existing SPLOS, we only would talk about
Close out.
the spend, the
Yes.
close out, and then anything else when it comes to a 2022 SPLOS out, turn it over to Mr. Corbin.
Make sure you
that's
separate the projects, though.
Yes, sir.
Separate those lists
Correct.
so we don't confuse them. All right, that's all I needed. Madam Vice Chair, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I would just like to say to the citizens and all of those who visit Douglas County, your pennies at work really do make a difference, right? Like Commissioner Robinson just said, we couldn't have done all of that work just on the budget that we have, that we appropriate, year after year. If we did not have the SPLOS, we could not do what we did in Parks and Recs, those sidewalks, that culvert project. None of that could have been done because we just would not have had the funds without taxing the citizens and the business owners within the county. So when you vote to tax yourselves, right, what you're really doing is empowering yourselves and empowering the government to bring in the services and the facilities and the other things that are needed to give us a better quality of life in Douglas County. So thank you to the citizens and thank you to those who show up at the polls and who vote to ensure that we have the things that we need. And it's evident in the list that you went down, and it's still a few more things that will be brought forth to end out this 2016 SPLOS, and I really am looking to the 2022 SPLOS to see what we will have done and show to the citizens as we progress forward for the next 6 years. So thank you, and thank you.
You're welcome. And then also, we will have the monthly report will be on the website, and that's what's been emailed to you. It's over 200 pages that shows every project and where they are.
And where they are.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
transparency for
Yes, ma'am.
the citizens. Yeah, thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
We will move on now to our approval of the minutes. So Board of Commissioners, please be prepared on tomorrow to approve or amend the minutes of May 3rd, 2023, work session minutes of May 2nd, 2023, and the executive session minutes of May 2nd, 2023.
Vice Chair,
Yes,
I'm sorry, we had one more presentation.
we have one more presentation. I'm sorry, our tax commissioner, Greg Baker, is here. No, I don't want to forget you. Please come forward. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Wonderful.
Well, we come full circle. We talked about this about 2 years ago, and everybody's asked me about it. And we come back around to land banks again. So we're going to talk about it real quick. You asked me to come do a presentation, and I am asked Attorney Allie Jett to come. She's the one that speaks at our tax commissioner. She does all the training for the tax commissioners on excess fund, land banks, as well as other subjects. So I figured, let me get somebody that's smarter than me, because I know Commissioner Robinson's going to ask them hard questions. So, as well as the rest of you. So I brought Attorney Allie Jett to go over land banks for us, explain it, that you know the pros and cons of it, what we can do right away. As you know, you got some property that's sitting out there that does not sell, but if we get some of this stuff in land banks, you know, they don't have to wait that whole year a lot of times. So I want to let her discuss that. I think she talked to our county attorney, Mr. Coleman, early on when we were first talking about doing excess funds, but I'm going to give you Attorney Allie Jett, and she'll go over it for you.
Good morning, Board.
Good
Thank you
morning.
for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. As Commissioner Baker said, my name is Allie Jett. I'm an attorney licensed in both Georgia and South Carolina. I serve as general counsel for the Clayton County Land Bank, as well as doing piecemeal litigation for a handful of other land banks around the state. I'm also a co-author of the recent publication of the Georgia Land Bank Resource Manual that was published by the Center for Community Progress, which is the national nonprofit that is used to set up and support land banks across the country. I was told to anticipate a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to keep my initial presentation fairly short so I can allow for times to make sure that I am being responsive to the questions that you as a board have. So I just want to talk very briefly about what land banks are, how they're governed, and what their powers are, and then I will yield to any questions that you may have. So the Georgia General Assembly created the first statutory framework that authorized the creation of land banks back in 1995. That made Georgia one of the earliest adopters in the country of land banks. So we started off what was then known as the Fulton County City of Atlanta Land Bank, now known as the Metro Atlanta Land Bank. But over the years, and especially as those statutes were amended to broaden the powers of land banks, we have seen a significant growth of land banks around the state. We have, thinking probably, I didn't count before I came, but we're maybe at around 25 land banks right now, and there's about at least half that number of additional counties that are in Douglas County's position of considering and exploring the possibility of creating their own land banks. So what that state statute, the Georgia Land Bank Act, does is it is just enabling legislation that allows the local communities to create their own land bank. Land banks must be made up of at least 2 members, the county and at least 1 city within that county. So there has to be multiple members. And so that is to create that cooperation within a city and the county. Now, you could have just, like you talk about, I said, Fulton County, City of Atlanta, you've got 2 members there. Or you could look at the Clayton County Land Bank, where all 7 cities within the county are members of the land bank. It doesn't have to be full participation, but it has to have at least 1 city participant. And so there's usually some sort of local resolution or intergovernmental agreement between the county and the city or cities that establishes that land bank. And it does, there are certainly a number of IGAs around but everybody gets to tweak it in their own little way. But essentially, the land bank is governed by a board of directors appointed by the member jurisdictions. They can be private citizens, they can be city or county governmental employees. You'll see it has to be a board of an odd number of people between 5 and 11, so you can have 5, 7, 9, or 11 members. And then they get to meet at whatever frequency they have. Most of them usually meet about monthly to ascertain things that come before them. But primarily, land banks are created as a vehicle for a local community to address vacant, abandoned, tax delinquent, and often blighted properties. They certainly can deal with owner-occupied properties, but primarily that was not the basis of what a land bank was created for. It was to deal with vacancy and abandonment. And so in almost every land bank, you will have some level of participation from the county tax commissioner. Sometimes the tax commissioner sits on the board. More often, the tax commissioner serves as an advisor to the board. You will often find also an advisor from the school board to the land bank board of directors, and part of that is because one of the biggest powers that a land bank has is to extinguish taxes. So if you've got some situations where properties, especially after you add like a demolition lien or some code enforcement liens, perhaps the amount of the liens on the property are more than what the fair market value of the property is. So try, as Commissioner Baker may, to sell this property. He can't get it sold after repeated chances at a tax sale because nobody is willing to pay the amount of the stacked up liens on the properties. Well, land banks can come in and essentially credit bid at those tax sales and take the property subject to the tax liability for the property, but then they also have, and so that does two things. For one, once the property is in the land bank inventory, it's tax exempt. So at least you're not accruing more taxes on this property that is already underwater. But also, the land bank has the power to extinguish taxes. It's essentially an unfettered right with the one carve-out that any taxes that are attributable to the school board, they have to send the school board notice of an intent to extinguish that taxes, to extinguish the school board's taxes, and that starts a 30-day clock wherein the school board can object their taxes being extinguished if they desire. So I always tell people that the most successful land banks around the state are those that have a good relationship with your tax commissioner. That is oftentimes the largest pipeline for properties coming into the land bank. But a land bank can also take donated properties. It can take county surplus properties. It can buy properties on the open market. So they basically can accept property in any mechanism except they do not have the power of eminent domain. That lies just with the governing authorities. But beyond that, then they have also a great amount of freedom and discretion for how they dispose of properties. They can sell. They can work in cooperation with a local economic development agency. They can work with housing authority to do affordable housing. They can hold the property as green space. They can do community gardens. They can, if the land bank board believes in a project, they can provide the property to the end user for no consideration. They can sell it on the open market. So they have a lot more flexibility in terms of ultimate disposal than just a county or a governmental agency can. So there is a lot of flexibility about that. I think that's probably a good place for me to stop and just listen to what your concerns are and see how I can address those.
Thank you, Attorney Jett. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the land bank presentation, especially in regards to your respective areas or districts? Well, we have the experts here. Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you. That was good, and I'll be quick again. I'm on time. I made a commitment. All right, so land banks. Yes, the tax commissioner has been talking about this for quite some time. One of the books that I got, coming in office back in 2008 was from Charlie Camp, my predecessor, and it talked about land banks. So this is an '08, just a book that's on the shelf that probably picked up at class somewhere along the way. And this is a tool that probably Douglas County is just coming in to be able to use. Based on what you're saying, there's 25 counties that's already ahead of us.
I would say that that's approximately, don't quote me on the specific number, but that's a rough estimate.
All relative. In here with me, it's all relative. It's just, it's 159 counties. And we're talking about advanced counties that have something to work with. I mean, we've dealt with slum and blight here. We changed language at the state. Commissioner Henry Mitchell drove that legislation about 6 years ago. So, no, we get it. All right, so let's put that to the side. So this takes away politics, obviously, from the governing authority to deal with taking over land. Yes, we have vacant land. We as the board have so much land that we sit on, and I'd be like, okay, guys, what are we going to do with this? We went through the NSP program with, obviously, the Great Recession. How do we dispose of those assets? Now, the county tax commissioner has been trying to get our attention, but we needed a collective, the board had to listen. The administration had to get like, guys, this is a great tool. We keep doing these one-offs. That's a great asset, something that we can use. So my question becomes, all right, so we can do everything that you just talked about. So let's just focus on the Board of Commissioners. We have vacant land and we own some buildings. Can we put them in there? In this bank?
Absolutely. That was how specifically the Valdosta-Lowndes County Land Bank got started, was because the city of Valdosta, I think mostly, not so much the county, had just a filing cabinet of files on surplus property that they maybe didn't even know that they had, that was just sitting there. And the county wasn't in the business of being a property manager. So that is what they started as the seed for the land bank, was to find a board that could thoughtfully think of ways of disposing and managing those properties.
Right, so there's always the downside of this, to your point. I mean, I get it, we're about to empower. There's an enabling legislation that's coming down that says that we can do this, and we're gonna put this brand new group of governors, trustees over this board. Like, yeah, we talking about land though. Hope their motive is right. Hope it ain't a bunch of developers on there. Hope they don't self-deal. So there's a downside to this as well. There's always two sides to the argument. But again, I get it. There's value, but it's what I call moral hazard. Got it, understood. Last thing I want to ask, Task Commissioner, I need to ask him one question. It's like, what do you see in this and why should we do it? I mean, again, I know you talked about it. You brought this to my attention a couple times. I thought that we were ready. I think we had the right mindset here to at least be willing to listen to it. So in your opinion, sir, what saith thee? Why should we do this?
Well, I think our only true value is that we can get rid of some of the land that we're doing nothing with. Basically, it's just sitting there. It's been sitting there. Hopefully, if you appoint the right people, they can turn them into parks. They can turn them into usable space that people can use, go out. You always talk about exercising, trails that people can go to and that kids can go to and stuff like that. On the other properties, I mean, affordable housing. If we got area where we can build affordable senior living facilities, I like senior living facilities myself. That's what we probably would use that for. But again, it would be putting together the right board that you would know would do the right thing with those properties to bring a value to Douglas County. So
that's good enough for me, sir, for right now. To collectively, if my county, I mean, what would it take? I mean, assuming my peers were interested in continuing to the next step, what is the next step? I mean, we have to go to our state delegation to ask for this enabling legislation locally, or is this something we can effect now?
This is absolutely, as long as you have a city who is willing to partner with you on this, then it is a matter of the city attorney and the county attorney coming up with an intergovernmental agreement. You do not have to go to the state for it. That legislation is there. It is just finding at least one city to partner with you on the creation of this.
Got it. So in that case, we got 3 cities, primarily the city of Douglasville, then we got some part of Billerica, and then a small of Austell. In those cases, if we cut a deal with a city, does that mean that we can only talk about things that are within that city that touches us, or will they have a voice in essence that allows us to do our whole footprint?
You can absolutely do the entire footprint. I'm sorry for cutting off the end of your question. Yeah. So you cannot, the land bank's jurisdiction, I guess, cannot extend outside the county lines. They are specifically prohibited from owning property outside the county, but you would not, for instance, if Douglasville was your partner, be limited to the footprint of the city limits of Douglasville. You would be able to do the entire breadth of the county.
From Austell to Villa Rica, got it, and everything in between, got it. That's good enough for me, I'll have to yield the floor. Madam Vice Chair, I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
Commissioner Alvarez, you have the floor.
So this board, I mean, obviously, it's going to be extremely important who we place on this board, because as Commissioner Robertson mentioned, you know, I could see an opportunity for developers trying to capitalize on some of these as we try to liquidate some of these assets. But the tax commissioner would remain as an advisor, correct, on that board?
That is really up to the whatever intergovernmental agreement or resolution that the county passes. For instance, in Augusta, Richmond County, their local legislation provides that the tax commissioner is a member of the board. Whereas, say, in Clayton County, where I act as general counsel to that land bank, it provides that the tax commissioner shall be an advisor to the board, but have no voting power. So it's really, there's broad flexibility as to how you would want to form the board. And I'll also say, while the board, the number of the people on that board are set, they do serve at the pleasure of their appointing jurisdictions.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. So piggybacking off of Commissioner Alvarez's question, then who sets the parameters for who serves on there? Is it the Board of Commissioners? Is it the school board? Is it, you know, the cities that we partner with? How do you determine that? Is that put into the legislation?
Yeah, it goes into the IGA or the resolution, however you're going to effectuate the creation. So for instance, in Clayton County, I mentioned that the county is a member and all 7 cities. So they decided to have the largest board that they could, 11 people. So it was one appointee from each of the 7 cities, and then the county appoints the remaining 4. There are other counties that may have a smaller board, and you just figure out as amongst the members what size board you have to have. Again, it has to be a 5, 7, 9, or 11 member board, but how you're going to split up. And that may be because of monetary contribution to the operations of the land bank. It may have to do with more of like the percentage of what land is being impacted, whether it's unincorporated areas of the county or otherwise, but it is all a matter of negotiations as long as y'all put that into your agreement.
Got you. And what is the average time that a member serves on that?
Usually 4 years, but a lot of times, most of them have, I mean, they serve at the pleasure, so they can be replaced at any time by their appointing entities. I have also found most of them will have some sort of residency requirement, so we'll have sometimes mid-term, somebody's going to move outside of the jurisdiction, and so it's necessary that the appointing jurisdiction has to reappoint somebody to fill out the remainder of that term. Usually, board member terms are staggered, so we don't have too much turnover at once. But I think the 4-year thing is not mandated in the Georgia Land Bank Act. That's just whatever people put in their IGAs.
And you spoke a little bit about the school system, you know, needing to be on board or at least be notified about the land bank and its activities.
Yeah, they do not have to have a board. I've never actually seen, I don't think, a land bank board where somebody from the school system sat on the board. In some counties, the school board is very permissive and hands-off. They may even have a standing resolution that says, as long as your taxes don't exceed X number of dollars, you don't even have to provide us notice, because they are supportive of what the land bank is doing. And they're figuring, well, you know, Commissioner Baker has tried to sell this property 3 times and we're not collecting our taxes anyways. Eventually they're going to expire too. So, you know, we're happy, you know, whatever the land bank can do to get this property into, you know, taxable status and back onto the tax rolls, they're very supportive. Then other school boards can be very protective of, you know, their taxes and wanting to make sure that they do in fact get that notice and that they do. I mean, Clayton County, for instance, they have an advisor who shows up to every board meeting, doesn't speak a lot, but they're there and active, or not active, but they're present. But then other counties it is on a as-needed basis or very nominal participation from the school board.
Got you. And my last question, so we understand how to implement it. How do we dissolve it if it does not go according to what the citizens and what the government thinks is purpose
Any
for?
member can pull out of a land bank. Usually there is some sort of notification process in there. And certainly if it was just a city and a count, and one city and the county, and one member wanted to withdraw from the land bank, that would serve to dissolve the land bank in its entirety. But if you had a situation where it was all three cities and one of them wanted to pull out, then, you know, you might need to go and adjust how your board is comprised, because you may have given some appointment powers to others. But I've yet to see a land bank get dissolved in Georgia, so it's all just speaking very kind of academically and how I've seen it addressed in resolutions or IGAs, but every single one would do and should have a provision about the process of dissolution if they desire that. But then, of course, you've got to think about, you know, what happens to that property that's in the land bank and have some sort of strategic plan in mind for who that's going to get deeded out to.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Baker, for addressing this issue. And thank you, Ms. Jett, for coming and educating the board and the citizens and staff who are listening. I'm hopeful that this board will take this under advisement and get with our county attorney and our county administrator to see what our next steps could be, and talk to the cities that we govern Douglas County with and see what can unfold. I'm hopeful. But thank you so much.
You're
This has
quite
been very
welcome. And if
educational.
there's anything that I can do to be a resource in those efforts, please don't hesitate to call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next agenda item will be the financial report, acceptance for the month of April 2023 by Rosalind Miller. Ms. Miller, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Good
The
morning.
financial statement before you is scheduled to be reviewed and accepted by the Finance Committee today at 2 p.m. And I encourage everybody to watch Channel 23 and on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Miller. On tomorrow, we will have proclamations proclaiming the end of the U.S. federal state of emergency on May 11, 2023 by our very own Lisa Crossman of Cobb Douglas Public Health. County Administrator, do you have any business to bring before the board this morning? We will continue on. Tab number 5, authorization to submit a grant application to GDOT for funding for signing and marking on various county roads under the Safety Action Plan program in the amount of $400,000 with a 30% match to be funded from the Capital Transportation Fund, and authorize the chairman or the vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Director Rana, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair and Board of Commissioners. Before us is an opportunity to ask for $400,000 with a match of 30% for our safety improvements within our local county roads. This program comes up through GDOT in case of their leftover fundings before they close out the fiscal year. This happens to be one of those years, and we have evaluated various county roads that have seen high numbers of crashes over the past few years. So we recommend that we pursue this grant so we can update signing and marking and striping issues on those roads and potentially help aid the safety vision of the state and also of our residents. We have a working list of about 21 roads that we will be targeting through this grant, and we will be discussing this application in detail in our Transportation Committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners regarding this? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes. Again, back to infrastructure. Now, we have a road rating. Let's put this in context. We have road ratings, and we have it in what, quartiles, or quintiles, whatever it is. But the top 25% of our roads that are really bad, we're working on. We're getting to the list. We got those who've come off the list, which are very good. So we're talking about perhaps in the middle. Are we striping and marking things that are in the middle for just normal maintenance that we get to do beyond what we normally do? Or it's just again, operational safety that has popped up recently? What do you think?
So this relates to our operational safety. we're strictly focusing on the number of crashes over these roads, whereas surfacing deals with the lifespan of the pavement that we lay out on our county roads. So on this one, we're strictly focusing on the number of crashes over the past 5 years on different county roads.
So crashes, I got it. So 400,000, what do you think that's gonna get us? How many intersections, how many roads, how does that work? What,
Currently, we're targeting 21 major roads of the county. Some of the big roads include Post Road, South Sweetwater, and there's a long list that we'll discuss tomorrow in our committee meeting.
Yep.
But we're targeting our key thoroughfares within the county.
And you have support for why these are our most error-prone areas, for a nice way to say it, accident-prone.
I didn't quite follow
I
that.
said, is that the area in which you're saying accident-prone? This list that you have that we're going to talk about tomorrow, because I want to make sure that my peers, guys, take a look at the list before I get to committee, and just validate that. And so, what is there a priority in that listing of things, or is it? I mean, how did you go about? I get the list. These are where accidents were. They're quantifiable. The question is, what is the priority? That 400,000. Will you be able to do everything on that list, or is there some type of inflation that affects this?
Everything that we put together in that list with the turnaround that we've seen with GDOT is fairly quick. So everything that we propose for now, we should be able to capture that within our list. And as far as the warranting criteria goes, safety and the number of crashes would really be the warranting factor in this list.
Got it. Again, 400,000, 20 roads. I mean, how much did the sidewalk? I mean, how much of our sidewalks projects costing? What about $1 million?
Sidewalk on any specific road?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, so it would be about $1 to $1.5 million on
All right, so
average.
listen. So just for a sidewalk at an elementary school, 1.5 million. And yet we're talking about, now this is supposed to extend us across what, 20 intersections, roads at $400,000. Like, okay, so I'm trying to get order of magnitude, like, okay, how deep is this gonna go? What is this going to do? And I get it, I just wanted to hear it for the record. All right, so, and again, was this plan, it doesn't sound like this plan, we have it in our capital transportation fund. So my last question is, we've been peeling off that capital transportation fund. We ain't got that SPLOST going yet. Like, okay now, you get to keep drawing out of that for the sake of operations when you sitting on this cash. And I'm serious about this. All right now, there's too much cash sitting there. All right, my question is, how much is left in my capital transportation fund? Look, we got capital transportation fund, we got a general fund with a fund balance, and we got a SPLOST that's kicking in, plus we got an old SPLOST. I need to know, y'all know where I'm going with this, so can you answer that question, please?
Yes, sir. The last time we discussed with finance, we had about $1.4 million in capital transportation fund. Recently, we signed an agreement with GDOT that took away $600,000 from that fund. We are currently at the application stage, so we're putting our chip in for now, and once we are granted the money, we can certainly have the conversation if we want to pull funds from a different source, but this is the secure source that we saw for now for the application purposes at this stage.
I get it, so how much would be less if you take this 30% of 400? Just
About
roughly.
120, I would say, would be left with about $600,000 after this grant, if we were awarded and the local match is taken out.
Understood, so 600,000 to my two peers, it's gotta last you for the rest of the year. Got it. All right, we're midway through. Okay, you're burning through. I get it, it's appropriate, but I just wanted to bring up that point. Madam Vice Chair, I agree with you. I hope we can take a look at this and you guys will approve them to move forward. We will talk about this during our transportation committee. Please look at the list of the roads, just so you know what they are. They are important, but we need to highlight and have this conversation. I yield, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. Any other questions? Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Yes, Director Arnold. Will you make sure you, I don't recall seeing that list. Will you re-forward that to me?
Yes, I will.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. That's it, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. And this is regarding signage, right? This is not any construction to do improvements. This is strictly signage.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's no striping.
We have the option to use it for striping if needed, but for now, we're targeting just the signs.
Just the signage.
Yes.
And if striping is needed, then you'll come back if it's,
Yes, we can make those amendments.
you can make
if
those
needed.
amendments. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Director Rana.
Thank you.
We will now move on to our business items. Again, we amended the agenda for items 14 through 17 to be addressed. So item number 14, authorization to advertise for a public hearing during the June 6, 2023 BOC meeting regarding Connect Douglas 2024 through 2026, the disadvantaged business enterprise goal as required by the FTA with the goal based on FTA methodology. Director Ron Roberts, you have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, citizens, and I appreciate the accommodation this morning. This request is that we get a public hearing for June 6th that we would hold here at the Board of Commission. It allows for me to post the DBE goals and to do our DBE outreach so that we can document everything for the future triennial. So we actually, we've had discussions with David Good and also the collaborative firm that's helping us with the outreach component for Connect Douglas. And we have a list of action steps and dates that will be moving forward if this is permitted on the consent agenda tomorrow. That's the first item. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, we'll move on to tab 15, approval to designate signing authority to Ron Roberts, Connect Douglas Director, and Eric Wright, Connect Douglas Deputy Director, and allow access to the Federal Transit Administration Electronic Application Award Management System, and authorize the chairman and vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review.
Yes, ma'am. Fairly simple, straightforward. We Triad Trams is the software we use to go in and move the funds around for the grants, and it has levels, and with the new reorg, we took Tiffany off, and this is just adding us in there so we can get this done and continue. Normally, these DSAs in the past had never come to a board before, but just out of caution, the attorney wanted to do that. So I actually brought them here today, and I'll leave them for you and Michael Coleman to sign.
Thank you. So this is just administratively to cover you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding this item? If not, we'll move on to tab 16, approval to renew the contract with Transitions Commute Solutions for operation of Connect Douglas Fixed Route, Flex, and ADA Paratransit Bus Service for the period of May 2023 through May 2024. In the amount not to exceed $2 million to be funded through Connect Douglas existing grants budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review.
Yes, ma'am. This item has been approved every year. This is the 5th year for the transitions contract. So they're in their 5th and final year. We're in the process of drafting an RFP that we want to put together and work with purchasing director to get out before the end of this month. There was just a couple of tweaks and changes to this contract. It hadn't been changed really since 2019 when it was developed with transitions. And there is a not to exceed amount of $2 million in their contract, but in looking at what they've charged us historically over the last 4 years, it's always landed in the 1.3, 1.4 million range. So that wasn't really an issue. One of the changes to the contract that we had put in here was upon the completion of the lobby renovations that their staff would be relocated to on-site. So we have a clearer proximity, more proximity to work with them more directly. It also gets us out because their contract has a cost-plus contract. So we're actually paying rent for them in another building, which we could just bring them in-house.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is there any questions regarding this? Commissioner Alcaraz, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ron. Ron,
Yes, sir.
do we have the statistics in regards to the percentage in regards to the ride shares? How effective in regards to these fixed routes? How effective are they? Would you say?
Okay, so you're asking about the ridership?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at percentages, we're up a great deal, obviously, but the ridership numbers are good in terms of we have increased the service continually every month since its inception, going back a long, 4.5 years now. So we've continue to increase them. If you're asking about the effectiveness of the fixed route, that is absolutely something that I really want to know myself, to be honest with the Commissioner. And we'll get to that. And we're getting to that through the Transit Master Plan. I want to know if the existing routes are going to be what we continue with, or if we look at a whole other routes, or maybe we take advantage of the bus platform we already have back there, and to get routes out and bring people back and give more fluidity and more options for transportation. So some of these routes, especially the 40, is really long. So, but that'll be in conjunction with looking at also different types of systems, like demand response, the microtransit we've talked about. One of the milestones that's in the scope for the TMP is a direct meeting with the three of y'all to go over this. We'll have at that point a real drill down on the fiduciary cost of these different items. We'll have at that point, a lot of the surveys back from the citizens, seeing what they are wanting to see. So it'll be a very robust discussion, and we've moved that to try to get on y'all's calendar in June or early July. But I think y'all have already been contacted by those individuals, and I really look forward to that discussion, to dig down into it.
Yeah, I do as well, because I've had quite a few citizens just say, the bus route just doesn't come my way. I would use it, but I've got to walk a quarter of a mile down there to the next, where the bus stop is. And, they're older, or some have disabilities, and so, I do think we all need to take a good hard look.
Yes, sir.
In regards to these fixed routes. And maybe, like you said, maybe it's just something that, I know Commissioner Mitchell and I talked about this quite a bit, was maybe something, more of a demand use, calling, maybe having like a call-in line where we could, might be a little bit better option than these fixed routes. But that'll be something we can discuss at another point in time. But I yield back, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
No, I appreciate that. One, I want to acknowledge Director Roberts. Last Thursday, we happened to be on the same audio show. Staff, Eric Wright, who I just met, so to David Corbin, our county administrator, to Chief of Staff Timothy Stewart Stanley, to Director Ron, did an absolutely excellent job. An excellent job of conveying to a broader population of what our transit was about. And it really was about input from, by the citizenry, for the citizens. Right? This system is being driven by the citizens, not by leadership, dictating their hand on what their needs are. That's important. This master planning process we're going through, no, guys, it's the citizens. It's what they say. Right? And so their input and getting them involved in these surveys and participating in this process is so invaluable. So the system was by design by the citizens early on. The routes were based on the citizens that participated. The needs analysis. This wasn't done in a vacuum. That's important. All right, so let me get on to it. So on this topic right here, I got to pause. Now, I'm fine, because I've been saying this all along, for different reasons that he and I may be landing on an answer. It was okay, so transitions, you've been here 5 years. Are we getting what we need for this? And I've said this publicly in my transportation committee meeting, so welcome to the full board. I've been saying I don't know. I'm going to give you a 5-year run. I get it. I'm paying you an awful lot of cheese. I know this. I know you guys are remote. See, I told you at some point you're going to have to come holler at me. It's It's yeah, I'm glad y'all said it, that I didn't have to say it. No, y'all need to RP this thing. You got to earn this. And we don't have to just, I'm not convinced. I simply am not convinced. I've never been this way with a vendor, but on this one, I personally am not feeling what I need to feel. It's yeah, but you're taking this for granted. This thing is regional. You know how easy it is to go CobLink? Why don't y'all come over here and take this thing over? Let's do an IGA, since we already got one to connect over. I'm not playing with this. You got to earn this, right? Because it's delicate, because it's complicated, because y'all need to get in here and give us assurances that you're really committed versus us telling you we were hopefully buying an expertise. I wasn't trying to just jill up somebody's friend that just happened to be in the game and got to eat on this thing for 5 years. Yeah, I know all the backstories. So my point is like, yeah, okay, you done had 5 years eating on this thing. Where my fruit? Right? Now, I get it. They sit back, and I'm like, right, they're remote, they're removed. It's about that service. It's that high touch. Forget the high tech, how people look at these different things. Oh, where's the bus at? I get it. Where's my on-time delivery, my on-time service? We've heard the feedback from the people. Now I get that, yeah, you got to walk a quarter mile. If you've never been on a bus before, I grew up on that. Now, I know you wanted to come to your door. That's a little bit expensive, but you within that 1 mile, we can come hit you up. We can pick you up. We can get around those things. But are you consistent? Where's my data? We'll talk about this in obviously our committee tomorrow. Got it. Where's my data? I need data tomorrow to show, okay, how effective is this current. So why are we doing this if they're not effective? Now you're saying we're going to buy a year. Are we going to do this legitimately? Are you going to put an RP out? Because y'all know how I feel about RP process. Y'all take forever. You're going to go into a 6-year. So my question is, County Administrator, are we going to have the RP out for this? Are we going to put it out?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when we get the feedback from this simultaneous committee that's going on, this planning process, will that be involved in helping shape the RFP? Because I don't want to be in the void. I don't want my Director of Procurement to throw out an RFP, but you ain't got the feedback from the citizens nor Director Roberts as it relates to this. Are they going to be in sync?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
I need that for the record, County Clerk, that we're going to do this. Y'all going to move forward. There's going to be input. All right. I had to get off the phone. Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson, and I will keep my question really, really short.
ma'am.
The RFP to be put out, will it include, will it take into consideration the costs that we have averaged over the 5 years, plus what we have paid to house them at another facility outside of Connect Douglas?
Yes, ma'am, we'll look at all that to see what we do and see what kind of vendors we get. We really don't know. I can kind of guesstimate about what kind of vendors would be responsive. Obviously, they would probably rebid on this particular RFP as well.
Of course.
But we would look at the cost, and we look at the types of service. And to Commissioner Robinson's point, there'll be some things we'll leave open because we don't know what the citizens will have that we need to put in there, and that was something we may add as the TNP process continues. So
Okay.
that specificity of exactly where. And part of what we're doing with the transit study, we're also getting the zip codes and all the data, and so we've got some real. We got a really interesting subcommittee, transportation subcommittee tomorrow, so it's going to be very exciting.
And to that point, I'm hoping that we are taking in consideration some stakeholders, such as our technical colleges, the CSB, those resources that we have around the county that people need to be able to access, even through the judicial court systems when they're mandated to do certain things and certain volunteer hours and those types of things. So I'm hoping we're taking into consideration those stakeholders and getting their feedback into this survey as well, so that we properly, plan so that we can hit all those points for our citizens.
Absolutely. That's what keep me up at night, is that stakeholder and technical list. The technical list is, I've already reached out to the entities in Carroll County and Cobb County and Morris. We can have this, they'll all be on the technical component, so we can really geek out and get down into what the transit needs are for the whole
Exactly.
county.
Okay.
And those entities. And that's where CSB has been instrumental in us, and also senior services in organizations and entities that we don't know about that are out there that need these transportation, and we want to bring them together. We want them on a map. We want to be able to look and see what we can do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We will move on to item number 17, approval to enter into a passenger bus stop access and transfer agreement with Cobb County at a reimbursable cost of $26 per month maintenance fee, so that riders paying to board Connect Douglas Route 40 may board Cobb Link Route 30 buses at the Riverside stop with a bus transfer ticket without paying an additional fare to transfer to Cobb Link Route 30, and authorize the chairman and vice chairman to sign all related pending final legal review.
Thank you. Thank you again. This is the last item for Connect Douglas, and Commissioner Robbins already given us a segue. Turns out we actually never got that agreement signed. So I was talking to my counterpart at Cobb Lane, because I've served on the Transit Advisory Board over there for 6 years now. And he was like, hey, I found this in the files, and then we started talking, and I never found it. So the one that he sent me is the one that Marta sent him, and so we ran it through legal, got them to look at it, and completed it so we can actually get it signed today. And that's really what it is. We haven't changed our operation one bit. Our citizens and passengers still travel without any issue from one transit agency to the other. It's just that it was never formalized, there was never an IGR, and as you can see, they're asking us to chip in to mow around the Riverside bus stop location at the epicenter.
Thank you for that. So this is just administratively, just to tie it up and to show legally that we're doing our part as we connect with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any questions regarding this item? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, no, this, while it's administrative, do you know how big this is? This is what we wanted, having the votes we had to even make the buses go. Right? I mean, this is important. So District 3, Commissioner Mulcair at that time, I mean, that majority was going where it was going to go. And Commissioner Mulcair said, but Commissioner Robinson, that's going to be 43% of our gas to go from right there at Thornton Road all the way over to H.E. Homes, because we need to be part of a more connected system. And it's like, yeah, I hear you, but y'all know me, I'm balanced. We got to connect to the bigger region. You can't be in isolation. You can't be in your little Douglas bubble. You're part of a bigger ecosystem. And if you're paying attention to where the state going, you see they come with this big ATL, Beach and Tanner. Pay attention. One ATL, one system. Right? In other words, you can be whatever you want to be behind the scenes, your little private, off-label, white-label brand. But we want one experience when you roll up into. We had this conversation, me and Commissioner Alcaraz were in Savannah. The guy sitting there, this is important. That this was important to be regional. In other words, I get it. We can't go all the way to Homes. I don't disagree, but I got to find a way. And we cut the deal with what? You were there, right there at the epicenter. We cut a deal. We got their two teams together. Y'all work this out to connect right there. So sometimes it's got guys, it's okay to embrace our peers, to think broader, to think agreements. And so this little crossover, I get to use my pass over in your house, you get to use yours back on mine, is so key to making this work. Without this wouldn't do what it was supposed to have done. Don't marginalize what that represented. It showed we could work with our next county. It showed that we have a regional perspective. We get that people want to get over to Atlanta. Again, you talk about London, we talk about other northern cities, how great their MARTA, how great their transit, how great this. But then we impoverish our own by thinking about why we need to do this. It's a conflict. All right, that's our attitude. I won't get into the southern states right now and the mindset of in Georgia why we got this where we are. But the point is that was important right there for the history that what you just talked about. Like look, guys, we doing it look, we want to do this, we do it, and we moved. So you just want to bring that credit up. So thank you for making that happen and tying that off, because that was so key that we're part of a bigger region that you can connect on. It's like a hub's on an airline. I want to keep going. Everything ain't direct. But I can jump on this hub, jump on this hub. I can go from Denver to St. Paul to Cleveland, back down to Atlanta. Hubs, regional connectivity. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron Roberts.
Thank you so much.
We will now go to business item number 6, authorization for the chairman or vice chairman to execute an employment contract with Wesley and Woollerton as an assistant public defender for Superior Court to fill a new position previously approved in the 2023 budget, pending final legal review. Ms. Monica Miles, you have the floor. Good morning.
So as you just stated, our office was approved for an additional public defender position to work in Superior Court. Thank you for that. We've hired Wesley Wolverton. He was a public defender in our office for about 10 years until 2018, and we've been able to entice him to come back and work for us. So he'll be able to walk right in, pick up murder cases, or you name it, and won't have to be trained. So we're just asking that you approve the contract.
Thank you for that. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for Attorney Miles? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
I'm at work right now. Hello, Public
morning.
Defender, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Great. While I have no objections to what's being presented, I did have one question regarding last year's budget coming to now. How are you doing in overall hires? There was, for me, I think, I asked a question during the retreat. We're about to start that process all over again, the difference between you and obviously the DA and obviously just trying to get a feel for, in your mind, or the solicitor for that matter, you having to deal with all the courts. How are you doing with staffing? How are we doing now, 6 months in?
6 months, well, as far as staffing, if we could just be complete, I think we'll be okay as far as the attorneys go.
Okay.
We still could use a support staff, additions to our office. The problem, of course, is just the economy, and there's just so much more money to be made in the private sector. We lost one of our attorneys just recently to, her student loans were all forgiven, and she's making so much more money going into the private sector doing criminal defense, so she just left. So it's not it's just right now competing with the market, and it's a struggle, which is just a problem I know a lot of public defender offices across the state and the country are dealing with. But once we can get fully staffed, I think we'll be okay as far as the attorney situation goes. But again, when we meet again this fall, we'll probably be asking for some support staff, or at least have a grant position made permanent in the next year that we have.
No, I get it. You've answered my question that, like, yeah, anybody has a life event and they can bounce. We get that. But overall, I just want to make sure that you're okay, because again, sometimes I think public defenders are not, that area was historically not fed like it should have been. And while you're tolerating your current, just like, no, it's okay. Like, no, is it really? Because everything else is getting fed quite well. They get to go back 2-3 times and good buffet, and it's like, okay, but what about the public defender? Like, no, guys, no, we need to weight it a little bit different. It needs to be weighted a little bit different. So I'm going to keep fighting for you. I get it. But because, again, you're going up against all those courts, and I get it, but you need more capacity. I mean, they're doing it on their own. They don't even have support staff. It's like, look, it's like me doing this with my eyes closed. I get it. But you still got to perform. You have no excuse. You still have to perform. And I get it. So hopefully we can support her this year's budget process to my peers. But, again, y'all will take y'all positions. But I have no objections to this current application, current contract. I yield, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? We will move on to tab number 7. Thank you, Ms. Mons.
Thank you.
Approval of an independent contractor agreement with RAH Family Counseling, LLC, to provide mentoring and counseling sessions for youth and adults to be used on an as-needed basis in the amount of $40 to $50 per session, to be funded through grants and/or the Juvenile Programs Administration's budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Jennifer King, you have the floor. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is another one of our vendor contracts as we're getting everything kind of lined up, doing those this year. This is a counseling group here in Douglasville that we've worked with for a long time. It's just the agreement for what they do for us, what we'll pay for them, and where it will come from.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? And thank you for finding a partner who is local to the area. It really does make a difference in understanding the culture of the county and the people that's in it. So local vendors really help us to do that. So thank you for that. You also have the next item, tab number 8, approval of 2 grant-funded surveillance officer agreements with Trent Wilson and Randy Daniels for juvenile programs, each at $50 per hour for approximately 10 hours per week, to be funded by the Family Treatment Court Grant and the Chance Court Grant, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Ms. King?
Yes, these are our 2 surveillance officer positions to serve Family Treatment Court and Chance Court. They're paid through grant funding. It's been kind of a struggle to find these surveillance officers. We were able to identify 2 and work out all the details so that they can provide for us about 10 hours a week, checking in on our clients and participants.
Thank you. And my question to you, what are surveillance officers?
I guess I should have said that. So the accountability courts like to promote a relationship with law enforcement as part of our programming, to sort of maybe mend that relationship or show that can be a better experience maybe than what they've had in the past. So we work with them. They go out to the home, kind of check things out, make sure everything's okay. For Family Treatment Court, they're going to check on the kids as well. They often will do drug screens for us, just kind of build those relationships, and they report back to the team. They're very much a part of us when it comes to staffing and figuring out what we need to do with all of our participants. For Chance Court, we have been utilizing the Youth Innovation Center for that program, so their presence will be there while the kids and the team are there, and just kind of, it's almost like a hanging out atmosphere over there, which is a great way, you know, to make that relationship work for the kids.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this? Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Just because of that one particular name, can you just please clarify that that is not Randy Daniels, the previous coroner?
This is Randy Daniels with the Sheriff's Department.
No, completely understood. Just because it's
Sorry
relations,
about that,
it's
yes.
relations to me.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that was stated clear.
Yes.
I yield back, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Alcaraz. Thank you, Ms. King. We'll move on to tab number 9, approval of a contract renewal, one with Brightview Landscape, Inc., in the amount of $288,175.52 for 12 months of landscaping services for I-20 at Thornton Road, Lee Road, Post Road, and Liberty Road, to be funded by Public Works, DOT Maintenance, annual budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. And Heath Cower, you have the floor. Good morning.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning, commissioners and county administrator, assistant county administrator, staff. So, yeah, this is Brightview. They are the ones, if you recall, last year we hired Russell to come in, and within a month they were way behind schedule to the point where they couldn't keep up. They were sinking. They wanted to raise prices. They wanted to double their price. We told them to have a nice day, and we brought in Brightview. They called us up in a month, and everything they've done we've been super happy with it, you know, and it's just, you know, we got our inspectors out there checking everything, and these guys are doing what we're paying them to do. That's great, right? So this is an extension just to keep them on for another year. That contract was, we can push them each year for the option until we hit the 5 years that we need to send back out for an RFP. So this will be going into year number 2, really 1.5. But, so any questions on that?
Any questions, Board of Commissioners? All right. Well, the next item is yours as well. Tab number 10, approval of a contract with Republic Services for May 2023 through May 2024 for transportation and disposal of municipal solid waste in the amount of $48.50 per ton, to be funded through the landfill's existing budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review.
Yes, so it is 5 years for the transfer station. We have Republic as our current provider, and if anybody doesn't understand, the transfer is where we actually load all the municipal solid waste, otherwise known as MSW. Think garbage truck trash, the stuff you put in your Kirby, the guys pick up and then they bring up there. They dump it on the floor of the transfer station. We scoop it up, pack it into 18-wheeler open top containers till we hit a certain weight, and then we go park it, pick up an extra one, another empty one, come in. We do that process all day long. So this is that job. Basically, we put it out for bid, and they were by far the lowest bidder. But it is an increase to us, $8.50 increase from what we were paying. So, but the rest of them were another, $3 to $4 higher than them. So, good service with them. Nothing we can complain if we get behind on our big like Super Bowl events, which would be Christmas. Anytime people throw away a lot of trash, that birthdays, Christmas, holidays, that's when it hits us really hard. And as we know, the transfer station we currently have is in some serious need of repair, and y'all have already mentioned that, so we'll be getting into that right after this, basically. But
Okay.
so this is just to keep these guys in and just to make sure there's nobody thinking that we're just giving Republic a contract because we opened it up for everybody.
Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for Director? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, one more time, but this, again, it's important. And so we're gonna raise our rates. Well, they're raising their rates on us, right?
They did, yes, sir.
Yeah, which obviously we understand. And again, I wanted to address the point about Republic. Republic has come out and presented to us a couple of times, as well as other providers. We got a landfill, guys. We got to deal with this. Like everything in this county, it's aging. Operational safety, we just fixed the floor. Are you gonna be able to keep that floor that we just fixed, or we're gonna have to tear it down and we put this new thing in?
Nobody's tearing it down, sir. It's gonna stay, we'll use it as a recycling area, additional recycling area, so just, I'm excited to get that process started, so as long as the engineers, whoever does the design build on that, if there's a way to keep that and utilize it, it's gonna be used, so I'll be sitting on top of it. Nobody's gonna tear it up.
Not in a bad sense, but just appreciate you need what you need by way of asset.
Yes, sir.
That's all. No different than the coroner or anybody else. Sometimes there are certain roles within our cultures, within our communities that we tend to discount and put different weighting on what we think is important. And this is just as important. And so I've always wanted to he needs what he needs just like everybody else needs what they need. They shouldn't have to feel marginalized or they're just if they're going to approve it. I don't know if they're going to approve something like, no, you need what you need to do your job. And this is safety, and this is part of society. You have to dispose of waste. I know as we as humans, we believe that we're all so enlightened. Any other creature. We're just at the top of the food chain on this earth. But there's certain things that we must do. So I just want to let you know I support the direction that you're going. You're doing the best you can. I know the policy considerations that we've talked about, and we'll talk about them obviously tomorrow in our committee, but we need to pay attention to some of these functions like this. Out of the 64 functions of government, this is important, guys. What you gonna do with this trash? See, we just throw it out back. We throw things out back and we don't think about what, well, government gotta take care of it. We gotta put it in its proper place so it doesn't come back on us. And so I appreciate you doing what you do. So I did to highlight, you're doing a great job. Stay at it, stay at it. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Director Coward, you have tab number 11, approval of a rate adjustment for our tipping fees to $78 per ton for MSW and C&D, and adjust local hauler rates to $59 per ton due to rising costs for our transportation and disposal fees to be effective on June 1st, 2023, and authorize the chairman and vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So the last conversation kind of just walked us right into this. I appreciate that, sir. So yes, we have to raise rates, no doubt about it. And we got to increase. We do a great job of not passing on these increases to the citizens until it's just necessary. We run an enterprise fund out there. We're not trying to make a big profit off of it or nothing. You run it to where we can do what we need to do the correct way and a responsible way that will keep people from getting injured or equipment getting injured, that kind of thing. So as a trucking company that comes in, kind of is the best way to describe what Republic does. And then we have our C&D landfill in the back. C&D has been all over the board as far as life expectancy left of it because of the vertical airspace. That's kind of how you look at it. We had, I believe, maybe the first year you were here, ma'am, it was when it first came in, we had 4 years of life. And that, you need to start, if you were going to replat a landfill, you would need to start 4 to 5 years out, just so it can be there on time. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So that was crisis mode. Right when I came into this job it was Gary Jenkins going, hey, we got to move, so what we did was change and put we raised our rates then, and what that did was hit the brakes on the volume of people coming in. Surrounding counties are more high, they charge more than we do, and the people know that, and they come here. So we have a transfer station that was built 25 years ago as a temporary structure, and we also have a flooding of non-citizens coming in from all directions because we're cheaper. So as much as I love to save money for our citizens and put them first, this is putting them first. Some people are not going to see it like that, but we need to provide them with a safe structure. To get that, we have to raise our rates. And then after this is over, we're going to go right into the new transfer station, platting it, starting to build. So I really think that if there is any heartburn coming from our customers, then it's going to cease the minute they see construction, because they need it. This is their place of work. It's like their office is that transfer station in their vehicle. The floor did a lot. It saved, it increased a lot of the safety that we need down there, but the structure itself is a hazard as well. So, we're going to adjust that. This is just part of it. So we're raising the rates again to recap because we have to. The rates got raised on us, and surrounding counties are cheaper. I say $78 just to put the brakes on with the volume coming in.
Thank you for that. Board of
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this item? Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Yes, Director Keller. You just brought up something that just triggered something to think about. I know we got cameras and everything out there, so how can we determine those who do not live in this county who are utilizing our landfill? I mean, can we not implement higher
charge them.
fees? Higher fees?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. It's when you mention that, talking about they're coming to us because it's cheaper, obviously they're going to dump here, I would say definitely make it substantially
Yes,
more
sir.
for those who
I was
live
looking-
in our county.
Raising it to 78 puts it $1 higher than our lowest competitor. Excuse me. So, which is in Douglasville. It's on Bankhead Highway, west side. It's more of a commercial transfer station. But any people can go through there too, and they will. If it gets backed up or if conditions are too bad, for whatever reasons. If we had to push them somewhere else, they would go there. That's their first choice. And then it would be the surrounding counties, Spalding, Carroll, that sort of thing. But you're eating up fuel as well. So we're right on the Paulding County line. The majority of these contractors that are coming in are from Paulding County, and we saw it before. When we raise it, they won't show up for a while until Paulding County raises their rates, and we're cheaper. So it's a cycle of how it goes.
Okay, I get it back, Madam Vice
But
Chair.
yes, that is factored in.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So for Director Howard, so for those who are outside the county, it's 78, and for local haulers, it'll be 59.
59 for local haulers.
Okay.
And that's a small percentage, but they have a discount now, based on the last time that we raised the rates, and then y'all met and decided, no, we need to motivate our local Douglas County citizens who have businesses to stay and, open more businesses. So that's what's happening.
Thank
with
you
that.
so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tab number 12, approval to award a contract to Intercontinental Commercial Services, Inc. for janitorial services at the Old Courthouse and Museum in the monthly amount of $27.50 to be funded through the general fund, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Director Amons, you have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning, Vice Chair, Board of Commissioners, and the public. Earlier this year, the accountability courts reached out to me. Their current janitorial company was not performing as previously contracted to. And so in March, I placed a bid for the courts and part of the museum. The bid closed in April. There were 3 bid submissions, and Intercontinental was the lowest bidder at $27.50 per month. And so I'm seeking approval from the board so the accountability courts can have janitorial services.
Thank you for that. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this request? No
Thank you.
questions. Thank you. Oh,
No, you can.
oh, 1 second, Commissioner
I was going to
Robinson.
yield to his, obviously, expertise on this, but let me go, like, again, I'm at work. I don't just show up just to be smiling. All right, here's my question. So this is for 2 buildings, or a building and a half. What is this for?
This is the accountability courts are in the lower part of the museum. So it's 1 building with 2 floors.
2 floors, got it. All right. So what is the approach to all other cleaning contracts? You and I have had this conversation.
Yes.
And while I have conversation with directors as the board is allowed to, I like to keep my stuff on the floor so that we got progress. So what about everything else, all the other contracts regarding cleaning? Do you have an approach to that? Are they all synced? Is it 1 firm? Is it 5 firms? What are we doing here?
Okay, so my approach for the other locations, and be more specific, one will be the courthouse here, the library, the tax commissioner office, and the coroner facility. And under the tax commissioner's office, we will also include fleet and property management. So my approach is separate RFPs or invitations to bid, because the detail that's needed to clean the building is different. And so the smaller facilities allow for more local competition, maybe than a larger facility such as the courthouse. And so I have drafted the RFP for 2 of those particular locations. The board approved the contract for the current courthouse, so that RFP, and it expires in December, so that RFP will go out later on this particular year. And so once we line them all up, the RFPs will look similar, the contracts will kind of be standardized. The only difference will be the actual vendors, the location, and the requirements. For instance, the coroner doesn't need as such detail here as the courthouse. And so I decided to put it out individually versus one large one for one company, maybe to come in and garner all the business around the county.
No, I get it. I don't challenge that thinking regarding the approach. Just want to know, again, contracts, and these are monthly contracts, annualized contracts?
They will be yearly contracts with the option to renew at the end of the year. But all of our contracts does allow the county to give 30-day notice for cancellation.
Got it. In this case, we heard that was because of non-performance. They just weren't satisfied.
Yes.
All right, and so if that person, again, is dissatisfied, you would take that up, the administration would figure out what's the best approach. Do we let them know, or we just, because we can? I know it's not like employees, but when it comes to business and you're on a contract, is it just because? If we're dissatisfied, I'm not feeling this, how does that work?
So typically, we issue typically the business unit that is impacted, it doesn't matter what the service is. We usually reach out to the vendor, and then if they cannot receive a resolution for those services that aren't being performed, then we would issue what's called a notice to cure. That gives the vendor the opportunity when we come in, we sit down, we look at what has been happening, we examine the expectations of the contract, and we try to iron it out at that particular time. And then if we cannot cure, then we'll put the vendor on notice and we can issue a 30-day contract cancellation. And a lot of times it may be just we will exercise the clause in a contract for convenience.
That's good enough. I have to yield the floor. Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Amons.
Thank you.
All right. Tab number 13, approval to enter into a part-time employment agreement with Angela A. Smith, Certified Appraiser 3 Accountant, to provide personal property appraisal support at a cost of $2,400 per month for May 16th through December 31st, 2023, to be funded from the existing appraisal department's budget, and to authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Director Balfour, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Madam Chair. This is in keeping with getting our digest finalized, as well as to continue with personal property. We're going to start doing personal property audits. So this person will come in. So we're asking part-time. That's what we can get right now until we look at the budget again. So that's what we're looking for to assist. This is a personal property assistance.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Balfour? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
All right, so on this one, we're dealing with the digest, so I got 3 questions. This one, I actually was thinking about all weekend. So, do we anticipate any refinements in our digest, meaning we gave you software, gave you guys, what, $900,000, y'all supposed to put this new software in place, we were going to get off the abacus, the old administration, and so do you have what you need by way of tool set? Yes or no? Do we need more than the 900 we already put in?
Yes and no. We do have a more efficient and synchronizing with the tax assessor's office. So to get the digest submitted to the tax commissioner's office, it's a seamless process. Okay. We do have that now. Okay. However, we have migrated our system from WinGap to Tyler. And what we have currently is like a glorified WinGap. We still need customization to make it work efficiently. One of the ideal counties to look at that is functional and uses Tyler now is Cobb County. And I would love for Douglas to be where Cobb is, but we still need customization and fine-tuning. For example, in appraisal, there are 3 approaches to value: market, cost, and income. Currently, we use only cost, the cost approach, and we do implement income for commercial properties, but we still have a market approach. To get the market approach, we still need some form of customization. So there is still some fine-tuning, but we do have a good tool, and we're working with it.
All right, so again, I'm always about the accuracy. We talk about expenses all day long. Yeah, but do y'all ever, where's our mindset as an organization to look at that side of it? Like how accurate is the digest? Sometimes you don't have to raise the millage rate if you value the asset right.
That is correct. And it's a delicate process. The best way is, and that's what is recommended by the state, is to look at all 3 approaches to value. But we also need the tool to implement all 3 approaches to value so we can do proper analysis. So right now, we do use cost and income. But there is also market.
Yeah, I know. I got to keep going. So, all right. So, to my point, listen to the logic, guys. It's about the accuracy. That's the thing. Listen to the theme. Douglas, we're a very good county, but we value ourselves wrong. We the cheapest. Yeah, but you're hurting yourself. Because that pressure is going to get put on you in such a way that you're going to have to carry the overall burden because you're not pricing yourself right. Man, I need y'all to get this. County administrator, pay attention. It's the mindset, guys, price this thing right. You got to stretch. I'm not talking about growth for growth's sake. I'm talking about stretch what you already got in place. Quit shrinking, quit hiding, quit, we just this. No, guys, stand up. Know what the value is. Because then now you're delusional about perpetrating what is really worth. It's yeah, but look at the burden that you get. You're caught in circular logic. Now, we got to break this. So I heard you, market. I got to get going. So what is that customization going to cost? You brought it up. How much? I know the budget process will begin here at some point. I know the county administrator wants me to support accelerating the budget calendar a month, which I don't have a problem with. But how much?
I have not requested quotation on it yet. There are 2 major companies and that does it, and I will be soliciting both.
All right, so let that go since you're not ready yet. So, all right, we got to put that aside. Last thing, so this person, this part-time will do what then?
This person is part-time and will be assisting our personal property department in the absence of full-time staff. to assist with the budget along with audits for personal property appraisal.
All right, I'm gonna let this go. I gotta yield. That's good enough. You and I have had our conversations, but again, I just had to bring it on the floor, and I think I'm comfortable right now in what I hear. Madam Vice Chair, yield.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Balfour, while we have the audience, can you tell us when the assessments will go out and what is the deadline for homestead exemptions and those other things that taxpayers may need to be aware of?
Assessments, the statutory deadline for notices to go out is July 1st. It is our intention to meet the statutory deadline. We are looking to be a little earlier this year. However, we are still looking at some assistance. We're still working out the legal help. The board, thanks to the board, we got some assistance from Tyler Technologies, but the legal part is still being worked on. And once we get that, we should be expediting the analytical process with getting the numbers right. So we will get the digest out on or before the statutory deadline.
Okay, and homestead exemption date?
Homestead
Deadlines?
exemptions, we still have until the
Is it May 30th or is it May?
April.
April 30th.
Yes.
Got you.
But, and it will show on our 2023 digest.
Digest, wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Any other questions?
That's it. Thank you for coming in this morning and explaining that to us. All right, tab number 18, approval of a contract with Weatherproofing Technologies, Inc. in the amount of $77,660.63 for roof replacement at the Fairburn Road Senior Center to be funded from the Capital Improvement Fund, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Director Worthington, you have the floor.
Good morning, Vice
Good
Chair
morning.
and members of the board. As you just mentioned, this is for roof replacement at the Senior Center located at 6287 Fairburn Road. That campus is comprised of several facilities that are joined. We have done, we've already replaced a section of the roof 2 years ago and another one about 5 years ago, and this is the remaining two sections. So these sections are just aged out. There's nothing particularly that cause this other than just age. So it's just time to replace this. We've got a lot of little leaks that keep coming up. We keep repairing. So we went out to bid. We went through Omnia, I mean, not out to bid, I'm sorry. We went through Omnia Partners, who is an approved purchasing cooperative that is a way to go through with economies of scale and try to get a good price on it. And they came back with Weatherproofing Technologies as the vendor for the $77,660.63. This will be to tear down the roof, replace it all of the haul off, all of the necessary installation, and that comes with a 25-year warranty.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, any questions regarding this item? Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
All right, James, so you said we've already replaced the other two sections, one 5 years ago and one, I'm sorry, give me that other one.
We did
10?
one section like 2 years ago and one probably 5 years ago.
Okay. And I mean, this is just a question of mine, is there some reason why we didn't do it all at once?
Budgets.
Budgets, okay.
That was
Because
just
I
what
just
we
know
were
it'd been
like.
cheaper if we'd have
Right.
done it all at one time.
This completes that campus, if you will. So this will finish the building, and we should be good for at least 15, maybe 20 years out there. This section will last, is warranted for 25, but the large section that was done about 6, 7, 8 years ago will be probably the first to have a problem again. So that'll be another 15 years or so, 20 years.
I'm sure they're going to appreciate that, because I've seen quite a few of those roof leaks over there.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's all I have, Madam Vice Chair. That's it. I
Thank
yield
you.
back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tab number 19, approval of a contract with Kavanaugh McDonald Consulting LLC for GASB OPEB interim annual evaluation in the amount of $5,000 to be funded through the Finance Department's existing budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Director Miller, you have the floor.
Yes, item 19 and 20 are requirements from Government Accounting Standard Board, also known as GASB.
1 second then, let me go ahead and
Okay.
read number
All right.
20 since they're related. Tab number 20 says approval of a contract with Fifth Asset Inc., DBA Debt Book for Debt and Lease Management Guided Implementation for Gatsby 87 in the amount of $7,200 to be funded through the Finance Department's existing budget, and authorize the chairman or vice chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. So since we have those two tabs, they're interrelated, you can go ahead and discuss
Okay.
them now. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, item 19 and 20 are requirements from GASB, and these items are required for our audit. Item 19 is OPEB, also it's other post-employment benefit, and the consultant is going to do an evaluation. They look at a point in time and state, like, if everybody retires, how much would it cost? And then they divide it by years. So then we just have to reflect that in the audit. So that's what they would be doing for the evaluation. And it's also sometimes it's called unfunded liability for your retirement. Item 20, also, both of these are for transparency. That's why the standard board has implemented these or listed these as per announcements, because it's transparency within the financial statements. Item 20 is to recognize the lease liability. Normally, that is part of your operating, so we state that, let's say for lease for a rental property, that we're going to receive the income and to offset the expense, so that's in your operating. So it's never isolated or pulled out to show your liability. If you have a liability for over 50 years for a building or rental. So now in the audit, you'll actually see the liability of leases, of all the county's leases. So that's what 19 and 20 are for transparency, and their requirements for the Government Accounting Standard Board.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this item? Thank you, Ms. Miller. Tab number 21, authorization for the chairman or vice chairman to sign a request for verification of position funding for the University of Georgia Extension for the FHCS agent in the amount of $12,981.25, pending final legal review. Director Gilchrist, you have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, County Administrator. Yes, the Family and Consumer Science Agent position is vacant due to the retirement of the former agent who served in that role for approximately 30 years. This position provides valuable research-based education and information to citizens of all ages in the county. As you stated, the ask is for approval of the verification of the funds. The total salary for the position is $82,367.60. The ask of the county is $12,981.25, which is approximately 15% of the total position.
Thank you. Dr. Gilchrist, do you know where the $12,981.25 will be coming from?
Yes, ma'am. It's the funding is already earmarked in the budget, the existing budget for that department.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this item? If none, thank you, Dr. Gilchrist. Have a great day. Tab number 22, consideration of proposed 2023 merit system changes recommended by the Personnel Review Board regarding sections 13-122, county holidays, and 13-58, employee rehire policy. And this will be by Manager Latifah Terry Bowles. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? So once a year, employees can submit proposed changes to the merit system to be reviewed by the Personnel Review Board. During the annual merit system meeting, these two changes were approved by the PRB for recommendation to be voted on by the board. The first one, as far as Juneteenth goes, is just a formality. I know the board had already previously approved that, so it's just to get it added to the merit system handbook. In regards to the rehire policy, it will be changed from 60 to 365 days. Rehires are entitled to have their sick time reinstated and their benefits effective the first of the month following their return to employment. as well as be able to keep their original seniority date.
Thank you for that. Ms. Bowles, we're going from 60 days to how many days is being requested?
365.
That is a huge jump from 2 months to 12 months. Why do you think the peer review board suggested that?
I think it was the thinking behind it was that to help, as far as an incentive to help employees that have left in good standing to be able to come back, go out there, but also be able to come back and keep their time of service
Okay.
before they left.
Before they left. So they get to test it to see if the grass is green on the other side, and if not, they'll come back to Douglas
Yeah.
County, but they won't lose any of their
Right.
benefits or their tenure standing with the county.
Yes.
For at least a year. Okay. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this? Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
I get the holiday, I'm not focused on that one. To Madam Vice Chair's point. All right, so here's my question. Personnel Review Board, was there a vote by the Constitutional Officer and the Board of Commissioners? Is this the new, who voted on this?
So this was our annual merit system meeting that was held in February.
Okay.
And that was one of the changes that was recommended to get voted on by the board.
All right, so, but let me clarify my question. Has the new board, since the Board of Commissioners submitted a name, is this, I need to know the status.
No.
Who, so it did, so this is the prior team.
Yes.
So the new members haven't voted. I don't know if I want to do that like this and commit to this, but okay, let me keep going. So 365 days. Now, I believe in, hear me, on merit. And you've got two worlds here. You got those who want to be on it, those who don't. You're thinking long term, like, okay, guys, if you're doing a good job, back to the stretch, we should value right. Pay them right, get their time right. These volatile doors, we can act like this cost consciousness. We're concerned about expenses. Like, guys, this is a world of stability. It's called at will. You got to know how to nurture a culture. You could make this thing transactional if you want to. You will miss it. We got to do a better job of acknowledging. But for years, like, yeah, man, so you're going to leave me for a year. That's like breaking up for a minute, and we're going to separate, and we're going to see how this thing work out. I get to come back with my same privileges. I don't know about that. That's just me. I'm going to yield to my two peers, like, really? But I get it, I get it, but if you separate, you separate. Right? We gotta go on and give that same privilege to the next person. So while we waiting for a year to figure out you, like, well, what about the system in delivering services to the citizens? So you gotta balance the citizens versus the employees. I get it. We appreciate it. I get it, but you can't, we can't give away, you exposing yourselves to just attitudinal and emotion, and I'm mad right now. All things that's an unstable, that's instability, give them that much time. No, this is business, either you're committed or you're not. Give you a year, and you can come back to your say. So now I gotta park, I mean, everything about that gas fee, just think about what you just said, Rosin. Now we gotta park these guys for a year of liability? I get it. Yeah, but if that's the culture y'all wanna create for that elite, 150,000 people, got 1,500 to work here. I get it. Y'all want to spot them, and I don't know if we should, though. I don't know about this one. I'm going to yield to my peers. I mean, I'm really on this one. Like, I get it. I think there's a better way to this. We're putting things through. Yeah, I got to get off. You're putting things through that you haven't even thought about the bigger picture. If you're going to do the merit, do the merit. If you're going to take care of the employees, then do it. But we're doing this one-off thing. It's like, guys, why don't y'all park this until you get the new team in there and they can come correct? You got constitutional officers that are swinging on this thing. I'm not part of it. They want to be part of it. But they get to weigh in. I'm like, okay, guys, who is seeing this whole thing? Who can see the whole picture? These one-offs are killing me. Like, y'all gotta do better than this. Think about, we got the same decision, different moments, and y'all don't see how these things fit together? That you'll compromise yourself if you do this. I got to yield. I'm going to let my peers take over, but y'all get it. Madam Vice Chair, you heard me. I'm going to let you two handle this. I yield.
Thank you. Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Director Bowles, is some reason why we've done this? I can only think that is because we're having trouble filling positions.
I think that was the thinking too, to just give them an opportunity to go out there, and then be able to come back. It's only a one-time deal, so you only get to do this one time as far as the rehire policy goes. In addition to that, it's not something that has to happen as well. It's a decision that will be made between the department, between the department heads, hiring managers, and human resources.
That's the only thing that I can even see as kind of logical about this, but I do have a tough time with being gone a year and being able to come back and just as if you've never left. 60 days, I could even maybe entertain 90 or 180, but 365 sure is a long time for someone to be able to leave and then come back right to where they left off. But I appreciate you understanding that, because I was just thinking logically, that's the only reason I could really see to justify this is that there's some sort of issues we're having filling some of these positions. But I yield, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Bowles. If you'll stay right there. Ms. Carter, can you come to the podium? Good morning, Ms. Carter. Can you help us? I think all three of us kind of have some, pause on this consideration. I know it is a consideration or a request for the Board of Commissioners to put this as a policy into our merit system, but we're all having pause on it. So can you enlighten us as to, what we could do, some of the options regarding this?
Absolutely. Good morning. A couple things. The first is that the decision to move this forward was a part of our current merit system that allows for changes to be proposed in February, and then we have a certain amount of time to present those changes. The new election does not take place until April, and so that's why we're moving this forward without waiting for recommendations from the new board, because if we wait, we would probably have to wait until next year. That's why the two things are separate. The second part is that I did do a quick dive into what some of the other localities are doing as it relates to rehire, and it's varied. Some have 60 days, some have 6 months, and some actually do have 365 days. The great benefit of this really is to address some of the vacancies, exactly what you said, Commissioner Alcaraz. Rehiring employees will help to assimilate them to the county quicker, less training, less time to get them back on board, and so this is just a way to incentivize those employees to come back. I don't foresee a great number of people taking advantage of this, but I think it would be a benefit in some of those harder to fill positions, those engineering roles, those higher level managerial roles. I think that it would possibly be of benefit. I don't think we should pose it as everybody leave and come back, no, but I do think it will be a good tool to have people know that they do have that stability if they do come back.
And would this be on a case-by-case basis, and it would be up to the hiring manager? Or this would be a blanket policy for all to follow?
If we add this to the merit system, it will be a part of the merit system. I think if we begin to look at it case by case, we could open ourselves up to exposure.
Got you. If the Board of Commissioners did not entertain the whole 365 days, could we insert the amount of days outside of what the peer review board suggested?
What we're asking is that we vote on exactly what the peer review board has suggested, because that is what the employee suggested, but we can look at it again at a later date with a different amount of time.
Okay, so we would need to vote on this separately on tomorrow's
Yes.
agenda, county administrator and county attorney, to pull it out of considered agenda?
I think the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
And also to separate the holiday from the 365.
Got you. So that's Clerk Watson. So that's two separate votes, and to pull them out of the consent agenda to be voted on as new business items.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for
You're
your
welcome.
insight. If that's okay with the Board of Commissioners? Point of clarity. Commissioner Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I heard two different things. I heard, I think Latifah mentioned that the department heads individually would have their own authority to decide this, and I just heard you say that no, it will be blanket. Can y'all clarify which one is it?
So it's not authority, but they have the decision if they want to rehire them. But if it goes into the mayor, so they can say, I don't want to rehire you, but if they do come back to the county, then they would fall under that policy.
So maybe not directly into that person, but somewhere else in the county they pick up. So they apply for a job. You work for me, you no longer work for me. But if you come back into the county, you now get to pick up where you left off at?
Yes, for any department.
For any department. But that would be applicable to Director Carter's point, it's applicable across the board. In other words, everybody's treated the same. It is equality, right?
Yes, they're all treated the same. However, the hiring manager can still decide, hey, we have other qualified candidates for this position now, so we don't, accept you to come back to the county. So in that regard, but it would, if that person comes back, it would apply to them as well. The rehire policy would across the board.
Do they come back at the same dollar amount?
It would depend on the position
Or
they
come-
applied for.
So you give them the same benefits, same, all that stuff that's behind the veil, but would you get where I'm going? Are we coming back? I'm trying to figure out, I hear the attrition in the tool, in the toolbox, but what are y'all really saying? I mean, does this affect that I get to leave for a year, I get to come back at the same salary? I mean, what about that component?
Essentially, you come back to the same benefits. So you get to accrue your PTO and your vacation at the same level.
Yeah.
As far as salary goes, it would be dependent upon the position. So if you come back to the same position, you would be able to retain your salary. But if you come back to a different position, that would have to be negotiated following the budget for that position. So this does not speak to the position. It actually isn't changing any of that. It's just changing the length of time. Currently, the 60-day doesn't guarantee you come back to the same salary or position.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. You've been very good. I yield, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you both for helping us.
Thank you.
All right. We will now go on to tab number 23, resolution to adjust the compensation of the BOC Vice Chairman while performing the duties of Chairman. This would be Legal Department, Attorney Coleman.
The position of chairman is unlike sitting commissioner. The position of chairman is a full-time position, which takes an extensive amount of after-hours time and work throughout the day that would not otherwise exist for an elected commissioner. And the thinking behind this legislation is that to the extent that the vice chair is performing those duties, in the stead of the chair, the vice chair should be compensated to the extent that the chair was for performing those duties. And since that has been going on for a few weeks now, it's recommended that that be retroactive to the date that it started. So that is the purpose of the proposed legislation.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this item? Being none, we will move on to tab number 24, cancellation of contract for design build services by mutual consent. Also, Attorney Coleman, Legal Department.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is a contract that grows out of the fire department. There was design work that was being done with respect to renovations to a fire station. And the fire marshal took a look at it and imposed certain additional requirements on the project that would have increased the price to a level that I think the parties involved do not think think that it's an appropriate amount to spend for that location for a fire station. So I think with the consent, I understand that the fire department got the consent from the vendor to terminate the contract for design build at this particular site, and to preserve the money to use it for perhaps a new station at a later date.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, you have heard the information regarding that. Is there any questions or comments regarding this? Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
I apologize, Attorney Coleman, I couldn't hear you as clearly down there. But so they're canceling this contract to turn around and use this money for a additional project? Is that what you stated? I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
I just couldn't hear
stated
you.
that at some point later, I think the fire department's intent is to seek a location for a larger fire station in that area, because the money that they would have to spend for this smaller station in order to meet the fire marshal standards would be exorbitant.
And which fire station were you speaking of?
It is in, I think it's in your district. I think the county administrator is prepared to speak to it.
Commissioner Alvarez, I believe it's fire station number 4, if I recall.
The Fair Play one, correct?
I'm sorry?
Fair Play Station?
Yes. Effectively, the current contract called for spending a certain amount of money in that fire station that no longer fits the plans of the fire department going forward. We can't get a ladder truck in there. So it makes sense at this point to cancel the contract, reprogram those dollars. Some of them are 2016 SPLOST dollars that will go. Some of them will still be utilized to fix the station and renovate what we can. And the balance of it will be used for a larger station in that district.
Just so our citizens know, this is due to the large development that's coming down around that area, correct? And that's fire station, if you've ever seen it, it's quite small. So I spoke with Intern Fire Chief Allen about this, and, you know, we just, obviously, we would not be able to service that amount of subdivisions and citizens, and especially with this growth coming in that area. So that's why we're stopping this project and going to relocate it. So
That's
just,
correct.
so we just don't put a Band-Aid on something and turn right around and have to
Correct.
re-spend more money. Okay. I yield back, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Attorney Coleman, is there any cost to cancel this contract for design build services?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding this item? Board of Commissioners, we will move on to the approval of the expenses. Please be prepared on tomorrow to approve expenses for Commissioner Alvarez for the month of April 2023 in the amount of $352.39 for ACCG training, and approval of reimbursement expenses for Vice Chair Carthen for the month of April 2023 in the amount of $363.39 for ACCG training. Now we will go on to our discussion items, tab number 27, CB 100. This is the Monitored Business Video Surveillance Ordinance. Commissioner Robinson, you have this item.
All right. I'll be very quick because I need Allison and Sherry on standby. Madam Vice Chair. All right, so again, this is, we had a meeting this morning, and unfortunately I didn't get it, but I was invited to talk about the learning that we do when we go to these different conferences. And while there is a distinguishing difference between a chair and the district commissioners, we're all held to the same standard of learning. And we go down to these classes, and I know you guys like to talk about expenses, and why are they in Denver, why are they in Washington, why are they in Savannah? Well, the whole point is to be educated. Because if you stagnate, then you can't keep up with the various vendors and the various things that are going on. You can't perpetrate to know what you're doing up here. Right? This is called applied learning on the spot. So I take great pride when I go to my conferences. Did you learn anything? Did you come back and bring something back? And I appreciate citizens' comments when they say, well, I hear you talk about those things, but what about crime? This is at the end of last year after my town hall, that the citizens like, you know what? This is important. You know, as a district commissioner, all of us can obviously advocate for any legislation that we want. You know, it's in our code, any one of us. We don't need any other person to advance it, but you obviously need the majority to get approved. This is important. We all care about crime. My focus on this one was really about the commercial aspects, right? The commercial residents. Right, so that's what the focus of this legislation was about. And so in going to Washington, D.C. and bumping into one of my peers in Washington, D.C., DeKalb County, like, okay, so how are y'all dealing with this? See, when we go there, are you there to perpetrate and just hang out, or are you getting work done? And to meet with my colleagues in a different county and what are they experiencing and stuff, and how do we advance our learning? Because I'm looking at staff, well, what are we paying y'all for? Ooh. I got just as much responsibility to go out here and figure out, okay, so what's going on? That's why they set up these vendor marts. That's why I go to my district office on Thornton Road, to meet with people. to keep this thing real, like, okay, y'all can't do my hand. I'm out here talking to other people now. I'm not, I mean, think about it, staff. Don't get it twisted. We out here talking all over the nation, all over the state. We're trying to advance stuff. Right, so this was important to figure out, all right, because we care about that crime that's going on in our county and throughout. The violence that Chief Judge talked about at the National Prayer Day when I was out there in front of that. Let's keep this real. We're concerned. And if I can empower my DA and my judges and my sheriff to make sure that, like, y'all got the tools you need. Everybody get the tools met. There's no, like, I'm with you. Now, I'm not solving the greater public safety thing, but this was something that was important to my commercial residents, the hotels, the 8 that's on Thornton Road, the ones that are in that sweet spot. So that's where this legislation came from. Like, look, okay, I don't know if the board's going to do it, but at least let me advocate for what I think is important for those people who are actually, look, but what about us? It was balancing it. So this is something that came at the first of the year. I've been working on quite some time, but I think it's necessary. You see what's going on over in Atlanta, how to be able to keep up with that person. We're using door dashes. Already, the ringtones, right? So this was something like, okay, guys, let's get a bit more clear on these cameras. I mean, we talked about our iPhones and our Android and how great our pictures are, but we want to be able to solve some stuff. I want to just, if you got somebody, you want to make sure it's accurate. I appreciate the cameras, I appreciate the license plates, but let's get that lens correct. Ain't nothing like sight. Don't take this for granted. Ain't nothing like sight. Get it right. So that's what this is about. Today is just a first reading. We know there's a formal process in which the clerk will explain as far as timing and stuff. So this is just the first reading. Allison, you've got to do your part. So how about we let Sherry read the first abstract, and Allison, you take over, and we'll just keep this moving. This is just the first reading. Madam Vice Chair, can I ask the deputy to read it?
You have the floor, Sherry.
Thank you. Douglas County Board of Commissioners, CB 100, Monitored Business Video Surveillance Ordinance. First reading, May 15th, 2023. Sponsor, Commissioner Kelly Robinson. Preparer, County Attorney Michael Coleman. An ordinance to amend Section 352 of the Douglas County Unified Development Code to provide for the mandatory use of video surveillance systems at certain monitored businesses and for other purposes. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County is tasked with protecting the health, welfare, and safety of its residents and visitors, and whereas the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County is committed to ensuring safety of our citizens and visitors to Douglas County, and whereas the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County is also committed to utilizing all available means to assist law enforcement in identifying and apprehending persons involved in criminal activity within the county, and whereas the use of video surveillance has proven to be increasingly useful in solving and/or preventing crimes, and whereas the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County finds that a number of serious crimes in Douglas County appear to be occurring at a limited number of commercial establishments. Now therefore it be ordained by the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County, Georgia, that the Douglas County Unified Development Code is hereby amended to add a new section to 352.
Thank you for reading that executive summary. Madam Vice Chair, can we have Manager Duncan go ahead and do her thing, please?
Manager Duncan, you have the floor.
Great, thank you very much. We have a presentation to share with you today, and let's see if we can get up. There we go. So the last time that we were here was in February of 2023. The initial draft of this ordinance focused specifically on gas stations. At that time, we pulled the data, we did the analysis. We had identified that the picture that you're seeing here, showing the gas stations that we have throughout Douglas County, probably was not the best approach if we wanted to have a conversation about video camera surveillance and solving crime. So staff has worked with legal, law enforcement, and GIS to look more expansively at some of these issues, and we've made some modifications that we're here to propose today in describing this ordinance to respond to the incidents of crime as opposed to just a specific business type. So you'll recall when we were here in February, we shared with you the information about the sheriff's response at gas stations, the E911 response at gas stations, and what we presented to you at that time was when we were looking at the actual incidents that they were being asked to respond to, we didn't think that it quite hit the mark on sort of the concerns that we're hearing from the community about feeling safe in their community. So since that time, we have worked with our legal department and our sheriff's department to propose this amendment to the Unified Development Code We are focusing on what we're calling a monitored business, and we've included a definition of a monitored business. We have identified standards for video surveillance systems. We have put in some parameters about the time frame in which images must be available to the sheriff and the prosecuting attorneys or any other law enforcement agencies. We have some provisions for required inspections, and we have basically a process for administrative or board variances of relief. That's just a high-level overview of the text of the ordinance. I can go into some specific details about any provisions you may have questions, but I want to hit just a couple of key points. First of all, a monitored business means any retail establishment that has been designated as a monitored business. And so what we focused on here are those establishments where Part 1 offense, as classified by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, has occurred. So Part 1 offenses focus on murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, human trafficking, or arson. Okay, so we didn't focus on just the calls like we had talked about previously. We looked at those specific calls that turn into crime. And our Sheriff's Department has been very helpful in explaining to us that just because you get a call, it doesn't mean that upon investigation, a crime has actually occurred. So that's a key point that I wanted to point out to you. And then the other thing that we worked with the county attorney on is to put provisions for relief. So we want to make sure if we're presenting something to you that it's defensible. And so within this process, it's not just a, hey, we say you're a monitored business, now you have to install cameras. There is a process for administrative appeal that will work through the Director of Development Services. And then finally, if the Director of Development Services says, no, I don't feel like I can give you administrative appeal, then you can go to the Board of Commissioners for appeal before you finally have to come into compliance with the code. So I will share this map with you. This is the result of our working with our GIS department, our Sheriff's Department, and legal to show you where these incidents of crime, when we talk about these Part 1 offenses at these monitored businesses, the red dots that you see on the map, that's where they cluster, right? And so this is a big shift in our thinking, is that rather than focusing just on a specific business type, be it a hotel or a gas station, we're looking at all of those businesses where this is actually occurring. And so what we have identified is that this is about 106 parcels, right? It's only about 1,000 acres here in the county, and that these incidents seem to cluster based on location as opposed to use. So we are focusing on areas of greater intensity of commercial and industrial development. And again, as I said, we've built in that administrative and board review process to give relief from the ordinance in situations where it's determined that that's appropriate. So that's just a summary of what we're proposing in this overall code. We're happy to answer specific questions or get into any more detail of the specific components of this ordinance, if there are any that we can be helpful with.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah. No, again, this was just sort of the first reading, so either county clerk or you, Manager Duncan, can explain, well, if the board says concur to move forward, next step, what is the formal process of going to changing code and ordinances? Explain that real quick, please.
Sure. So this would be an amendment to the Unified Development Code, and that is done according to Article 12 of our Unified Development Code. There would be a hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners, at which point, if it was approved at that time, it would become part of the Unified Development Code and administered out of the Development Services Office.
Okay. Is there a need to put in the legal Oregon like normal ordinance? This is different, right? So this is a different path.
It would be advertised, but it would be advertised similar to any other zoning amendment. So there's an advertisement that goes out between 15 and 45 days prior to the adoption.
Got it, 15 to 45 days. And when you say advertisement, this is important. Are you just talking about notices on the side of the road, or are we saying that it's 1,000 people, 1,000 businesses? Are you going to send them something direct? How will you get their attention? Because I want them to be involved. And this was something that was important to me, the notification process. You always get that, like, but you tell them. And I know you guys have expressed some concerns, but and I'm asking that because here's where I'm going with this, is that, well, don't we require people to have the little peephole indoors? I got to like, oh, I still got one in mine. And I know some people have them high-end houses and they may not have the peephole, but I get, so you put certain standards in place for safety. And I'm going back to the code. Oh, you got to put a lock on the door. Oh, you require that. Oh, you require this type of condition across the board. No, for safety. I see. So I'm challenging this. Is I got what you're saying. I get monitored businesses, but I'm like, yeah, but you know that stuff in the code for safety. The camera is part of that. Now I get it. You know, and that's what I want to make sure we have an open debate. Make sure we debate was. I invited my peers. Said, guys, No, let's make sure we get this right. Let's make sure that the citizens, the commercial that are there, but at the same time, I want the residential, like, what do y'all really think about this? We already have stuff on the books that we require for construction. So the question is, okay, I get pre-existing, but going forward. So here's my one condition for the record for consideration. We'll have to do it now. I'm just marking it. At least I'm just marking this for the moment. We'll take this up later. It doesn't mean for it to go move forward. My question is, but you got stuff on the books today. So does everybody get to be grandfathered and everybody going forward, you shall do this? Or are y'all saying that this is optional? We'll get into this in considering. But go ahead. I want to hear this.
So what we would do at the time this is enacted, we would work with the Sheriff's Department to have a list of those businesses where Part 1 offenses have occurred, right? And from that, we would operate very similar to what we've done with the short-term rental ordinance. We would assign this project to a staff person to basically shepherd from start to finish for all of these processes. That staff person would be responsible for doing the initial outreach, for contacting the business owners, for contacting the property owners, saying they've been identified, doing an assessment of what camera technology may currently be in place, on the property, helping them understand the relief process should they not want to come into compliance. And then finally, for properties that go through their appeal process and still won't come into compliance, we would turn that over to code enforcement, and code enforcement would be responsible for taking action under the provisions of violation of the code.
Got it. That's good enough for right now. So I yield. I mean, again, this is just the first reading, and there's no action being taken by this board, but to move it on in the normal process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Madam Vice Chair, are you?
Thank you. Commissioner Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Ms. Duckett, so when I was looking at that, when you were talking about where crimes of Code 1 or offenses have been made at businesses. Now, as we know, crime happens all the time and daily at different locations. So if we have identified these certain businesses that we're monitoring, then a crime happens at a different business. Are we going to, and that's, say a murder happens at another business, are we going to make this new business start installing cameras every time there's an offense?
Right, so again, the process we would repeat approximately every 8 to 12 months. In working with the Sheriff's Department, we understand that there's a certain amount of time from an incident to be identified and then the determination made that it was actually a crime committed, right? So the way they explained it is that someone may report that their car's been stolen. If it turns out that it was actually just their child taking it for a drive without permission, that doesn't turn into a crime, right? So what we would do is work with the Sheriff's Department every 8 to 12 months, which is about the amount of time they've indicated to us, to kind of see how, this information is changing. And at that time, when we pull that new round of information, for businesses that may need to come into compliance, we'd start the process over with them, right? We would say, hey, you've been identified, you need to come into compliance. But there's also a provision in there that if you don't have a crime for 12 months, then you have a provision for relief from compliance.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, but no, I appreciate Commissioner Robinson bringing this up and us, starting this dialogue and figuring out how we're going to put this system in place, because, our flock cameras actually, Douglasville PD caught 2 people actually driving around on Thornton Road the other day in a stolen car thanks to our flock cameras. So I know it's extremely important to help reduce some of these crime and hold some of these people accountable. So, I look forward to that discussion. I encourage the public to please get involved, and if you've got any concerns, to please bring them to us. But I'll go back, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. So it sounds like then the board is possibly accepting to move this on to the P&Z board for legal purposes of actually voting this in and putting this in the Unified Development Code. So Attorney Coleman, is there anything else that would be needed from the Board of Commissioners if we so choose to move this on to the P&Z?
Madam Vice Chair, I do not. My colleague Cheryl Ringer, who's worked closely on this matter, is shaking her head, and she does not either. So we have nothing further.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Board of Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. As Commissioner Alcaraz said, look forward to seeing this and hearing the citizens regarding this item. Attorney Coleman, do we have any?
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Robinson.
No, just point of order. All right, so let's agree for the record. So can I get a calendar for when you guys, since it seems like this, we concur, move forward. I need a calendar and dates in which we can see this on the next joint Board of Commissioners, P&Z, whatever your legal posting you have to do. Can y'all give us a calendar? County Clerk, can y'all tell us real quick relative when we can expect this?
It will be the August meeting.
Right.
At the August meeting. We've already done our advertising for the June meeting, so to meet our advertising requirements, it would have to be at the August meeting.
Not July?
Perfect.
I'm sorry?
We're off.
We don't have a July planning and zoning board
don't?
meeting.
No, we take 1 month off.
You took a month off?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I yield.
Thank you.
August it'll be. Thank you. First meeting in August, right?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
yield.
sir.
Yes, ma'am. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. To that point, are there any other commissioner comments? Being none, County Attorney Coleman, do we need to go into executive session?
Don't have any matters for executive, oops, I'm sorry, we do have one personnel matter for executive session?
Okay, so we have one personnel matter. If there is this anything for the Board of Commissioners to concur on or to possibly vote on?
Nothing to vote on.
Okay, so citizens who are watching us streaming and those of you who are sitting here in the courtroom, since we don't have any matters to vote on, we will go into executive session and then we will adjourn the meeting. So thank you for your attention and for your participation in county government. Have a great day and we will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Meeting will be adjourned after executive session. Motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now in executive session.